But Iris really has been a bit of an enigma in the industry for lots of people, I think.
No briefs at all, and it was chaos.
The word entrepreneur, I've got a real bugbear with it. There's a lot of baggage associated these days.
We used to park our client's car in a car park, didn't we, underneath the Savoy Hotel.
You're risking this one.
The biggest thing that comes through is how committed people are and how much they care.
But fundamentally, it's an attitude to risk.
This is going to be amazing.
Welcome to the first episode of our mini-series, Entrepreneurs in the Wild / 25 years / Christmas special. Couldn't get Michael Bublé for this one, but we've got three amazing leaders joining me for this particular session. And what we're going to be doing over the next half an hour or so is exploring the idea of leadership and culture, and also thinking about entrepreneurs, the spirit of the underdog, and also how that has powered Iris to be a global agency of 1,000 or so people. And joining me today, we have Claire. So Claire, do you want to just say a couple of words about yourself?
Hi, I'm Claire Humphris. I'm one of the co-founders of Iris, and up until recently was the CEO of the London office.
And also we have Adam, another one of the co-founders. Do you want to say a few words about yourself?
I'm Adam Wright and one of the co-founders, and I'm now the managing director of a board game company called Big Potato.
And also Zoe.
So I'm Zoe Eagle, and I am the current CEO of Iris London, and I joined 4 weeks ago.
And how is it going?
It's going brilliantly, which I have to say.
It's dragging on a bit.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, wait till you get to 20 years.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that we could just start with you two. And obviously you were there right at the start of this particular adventure 25 years plus ago. And I think for myself, I look back on it and I just think, how the fuck have we got here? What happened? It's flown by. But I just want to get your perspectives really on what it felt like in the early days. Did you, were there any sort of conscious things that, you were doing as a sort of young entrepreneur? What about culture? What was going on around you? It'd be just really interesting just to sort of get your perspectives on the early days.
I think we were so young when we did it. So we were 24, 25, that words like entrepreneur, culture, sort of very intentional management terms weren't even on our radar. So we were just in it, trying to do it. And we were very focused on the client and the work. And that was all that mattered. And actually, that's quite true today. I think even when a company grows, if you just focus relentlessly on the clients and the work and make them as good as they possibly can be, some of the other things can be a bit of a distraction. Yeah,
I mean, I agree. I don't think, I think it's fair to say we didn't spend much time thinking about leadership. I think we just wanted to do good stuff. So, and we knew roughly what that looked like. We knew what we didn't want it to be. I think it was the other thing. So it was just about rolling your sleeves up and getting stuck in and trying to make life easy for clients as well and simplify things. And I think that, I don't know, perhaps as agencies grow, sometimes it's easy to make things a bit more complicated, but we definitely tried to make life easy for them. We used to park our client's car in a car park, didn't we, underneath the Savoy Hotel. And it was like, oh my God. And you can't imagine whether, would someone even do that now? I don't know.
Well, that's exciting, isn't it? If you just manage to sort of scratch it or damage some of the alloys.
It's tempting.
That's a bit...
It's high risk.
Yeah.
There's something about size though, isn't there?
Yeah,
so when
course.
you are under, I don't know, let's say 30 people, you don't need a lot of process to manage those people and to manage how you get from A to B on a project, because you're all basically in one room, which is what we were. So you could literally just shout across the room and ask if the work was ready, because the client was going to come in an hour. So I think you only start getting process driven when you get lots of people in one place and you start to get to the size where you don't know everybody's name potentially. So
Yeah.
I think the turning point for us was probably over 50 people. We started having to have some set ways of doing things because you couldn't have 50 people all doing something different.
Well, we didn't have any job descriptions, did we,
No.
or titles?
No.
So, and I agree with it. But I do think that people beat process. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
if you've got a bunch of people. I mean, of course, everyone needs to understand what you're shooting for, and they need to understand their sort of bit within it. But I think if you've got people who are prepared to take initiative and they recognise that it's about getting the job done.
It's a really interesting thing, this, because I can sort of remember the sort of first half of Iris being very sort of fluid, dynamic, no clarity on anything. Everything sort of not quite made up as we went along, but not far off. I don't remember kind of objectives, KPIs, anything like or OKRs. I don't remember any of that. I don't think we did it. As you said, it just didn't seem to matter. Everybody had a sort of sense of what we were doing, a sense of mission, a sense of sort of clarity of purpose, and very tight bonded teams that enjoyed each other's company and didn't need any objectives or reviews. Or I think we did have reviews, but it was a bit,
Yeah, I mean, to begin with, we didn't even have a creative brief, did we? So it would be a verbal briefing to a creative team that was sat next to you. And there are some downsides.
Sean made me write a brief. I can't believe maybe you didn't have to write briefs.
Time for this. Go and write me a brief. Come back when you're ready.
Yeah. So I mean, we quickly discovered that writing some things down is necessary.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it is
absolutely.
good.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I can remember when we'd got to our first actual office on Southwark Street. And we were about 100 people at this point. So already, when you look at the landscape, quite sizable. And again, no structure. I don't think we had we might have had the odd copywriter or, but mainly it was sort of art direction, design centric, and no briefs at all. And it was chaos.
It was busy. It was, like you say, people had a sense of what they need to do, what their part of the job was. I remember when we were, I don't know how big we'd have been, but when we first got project managers and producers and people like that into the agency, and at first it was a bit like, what are they going to do? And then obviously it became clear that they were able to organise things much better than a bunch of people.
And stop us getting fired for production going wrong.
Our timings were definitely better. I guess you put in place the things that you need to put in place when you. Yeah, I think you sort of see it as you go along. I don't think we were sat there thinking, oh no, we really need to do this. We really need to do that. I think it felt quite organic. The introduction of process, I guess, is what I would say.
And now you look back on your sort of Iris journeys. Do you think of yourselves as entrepreneurs? And how are you sort of seeing the sort of things that you learned out of that early phase?
The word entrepreneur, I've got a real bugbear with it. There's a lot of baggage associated these days. I like thinking of myself as entrepreneurial.
Yes.
But not as it's a defining label for me in any way.
I think that's a really good distinction, isn't it? Because I think you meet some people and they are without a doubt, they're entrepreneurs. They've always got ideas and they're always thinking of new things to do, and they're brilliant, fun to be around, but they can't always make them happen. And I think, similar to Claire, I think I'm entrepreneurial, but really what I'm good at is making, I like to think anyway, you might differ, making good ideas happen. That's my job, helping make good ideas happen.
Well, it's very interesting to hear your responses to that, because me too. I wouldn't have said, hey, look at me, everyone, I'm an entrepreneur. It doesn't really work like that. And just about every entrepreneur I've spoken to all says the same sort of stuff. They don't think of themselves like this. Occasionally there are people that do, and they tend to be a bit more egotistical, or in their families are entrepreneurs. That seems to be where the difference sort of comes from, and there's permission to adopt it as identity. Whereas most of us, it is entrepreneurial spirit, it's circumstance, it's people that we meet, but fundamentally it's an attitude to risk. So you two have an attitude to risk that enabled you to play an enormous role in this journey, and you probably can't appreciate that. And that's actually a rare skill.
Yeah.
Feeling
Risky.
I do recognise that about you.
All right.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I'm not the one that runs over mountains.
This one.
This is why we have a good time when we go out.
Yeah. I do some of the risky things. Yeah. I think, but it's about, excitement, isn't it? Like an adventure. And I remember we always used to say, didn't we, like knowingly as well, how hard can it be? And how hard can it be to, I don't know, run create a European toolkit for this new, I don't know, a bond partnership for Sony Ericsson or whatever. We'd never done it before, but it was like, it can't be that hard. And then and we would do it. But there were things about it that were hard. So I think not being afraid to make mistakes, having an environment where it's okay to make mistakes, as long as you you don't want to make mistakes on, with clients' money, but at the same time, if you're learning and getting better, and you're working in partnership, with in the agency and beyond, then you can do really good stuff.
There was definitely the permission to fail. And there was also
which is just as well.
Yeah, which is just because there were many failures along the way. And there was also a camaraderie or the support because we were in it together.
Yeah.
And that went hand in hand with the encouragement to try and do things that had never been done before, because you felt like the team had your back, and you were in it together, truly in it together. And so if one of us went down, we all went down. But because there were more than one of us, we knew that wasn't going to happen, because we would do whatever it took to bail each other out. So there is a strength in numbers, and a bond that I think really was the thing that encouraged us to be risk takers, because you're never on your own.
I think that's so true. Like we had such there's a gang, and then of course there's the initial gang, and Sammy and Steve and Stewie and Sean, and us lot, but we kept adding to it. So that, everyone that came along was also sort of part of that, and that's the thing that gave us the sort of strength or courage to do stuff.
Yeah, and it was a quality that you looked for in people when you recruited them. Yeah. And it's hard to judge from an interview whether they're the type of person who will walk through walls. But it would reveal itself quite quickly, and then that would be the bonding cement, if you like, between the team. And I think when you never feel like you're on your own, I think you can do amazing things.
Cool. So if I could just move on into the present. Joining us, obviously, Zoe, CEO of the London office, just been here for a few weeks. What's your observations being of the first few weeks of being at Iris?
I mean, it's really fascinating hearing you guys talk about the early days of Iris, because I actually think so much of what is in the sort of air is what you're talking about. I think the culture was obviously set in those early days, and you talk about finding the right people to hire, and it seems as though that was the direction set, and really that is the spirit of the business that you encounter now. And it genuinely it's kind of revealed itself to me. It's like I could articulate it better now because you guys are talking about it. But I said to the leadership team the other day, I was like, there's just something in the water around here, isn't it? It's like, why are people... There is
actually something in the water.
There is actually something in the water, But we were trying to talk about what it was, and there's this thing of people being emotionally involved. I think that probably is the biggest thing that comes through, is how committed people are and how much they care, and they will take a bullet and walk through walls. And I'm sure it's not the case for absolutely everybody who works there now. It's obviously a much, much bigger business, but there is some really, really long-standing talent, and the people who are sort of integral to the place have definitely got that about them. They're just really, really emotionally involved. And I've actually said to some of them, why do you care so much? And they're like, don't know. They just sort of do. So I think that's probably my biggest impression that I've had in the few weeks that I've been there, I think.
And if you think about your career that has led you to this point, were you particularly aware of Iris, as you sort of moved up through the ranks in other businesses?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always been aware of Iris. I think everybody in the industry has been. But Iris really has been a bit of an enigma in the industry for lots of people, I think, just because it wasn't possible to put Iris in a box, purely from the perspective of what did Iris do? That thing where how hard can it be? Yeah. Actually, Iris did kind of everything, but was probably mostly famed for a slightly crazy culture. So lots of really young people, turning their hand to everything. And so it was just known to be a sort of fun place to be. And I think also competing with Iris was quite worrying, just because you didn't really know what game they were playing, if you see what I mean. So pitching against Iris was always a bit of a worry. And it always felt like Iris quite often won the tasks. Like, I remember the Olympics thing. Like, it always felt like Iris kind of won the tasks that were a bit differently shaped and that nobody really knew how to approach it. It was like Iris could do it. So a bit enigmatic, but also... Yeah, I suppose, like I always say in the business now, slightly sort of hard to pinpoint, like a little bit mad is, I suppose, what I would say. Yeah. No offence.
No, and it's interesting you pick up on that, because that has been both a benefit but also been a bit of an Achilles heel over the years.
Oh, really?
Because people like to put you in boxes. So, for example, new business intermediaries, they want to know what it is you do so they can very quickly match you to briefs. And if you say, well, we can do quite a few things, that doesn't fit with the model that they're looking for. And then it's also hard to build awareness around lots of things rather than one thing.
You never feel like you're being taken seriously. You never feel like you're influencing, really senior, ambitious clients on really ambitious and senior tasks. You'd have to take that on the chin and say, actually, there is still a lot of business in. If no one else can do it, Iris can. There's still a lot of business in that. But when you start to think about Iris today and into the future, that's sort of not really a positioning, is it? It's sort of like, we've got to find a way of sort of crystallizing, what we do offer clients in the market today.
Yeah, it's funny though. I do think that the market has changed, and almost putting agencies into boxes thing, it still happens, obviously. But actually for clients, having an integrated offer, and the thing around owned and earned first is actually... it is incredibly relevant. And I think they will explicitly kind of seek that out now. I think the thing that we have to persuade people of is that we can do the big grown-up thinking. But actually, in order to do the big grown-up thinking, you've got to have expertise in lots of different things these days. So I don't think it takes that much to kind of explain to people that it's sort of brand stewardship and it's marketing in whatever channel. Like, I think people do kind of understand that a bit better now. I think the client demand has maybe changed shape in a way that has benefited Iris, or maybe Iris sort of helped to direct.
Well, I think we've sort of, generally speaking, always been a bit ahead of the time, always. Whether that's because we've got into management consulting, or we've got a pricing strategy business, or we're just doing work that is actually just content. And this is like years and years ago. You look back through, the Iris on Show books, and you see it. It's some of it is just amazing when you look back on it, and it's stuff that's innovative like now, and it's stuff we were doing 10 years ago. And I think this is part of the thing about having this fluid culture, this sort of openness to risk, this go on, and not being so obsessed by being in a box or being defined by any sort of particular discipline, that allows for that innovation to happen. But I think it has now shifted in our direction. This idea of earned and owned led, that's us. That's always been us, and it's now up to us now to sort of turn it into something that makes it a serious sort of business sort of a strategy.
Yeah, it's funny. I always describe Iris, now that I'm there, as kind of unencumbered. Yeah. It's this thing of the industry has got such fixed ideas about how things should be done. And it's incredibly sort of liberating to be somewhere that just kind of doesn't really care, you know what I mean, about what those fixed ideas are. And so is able to sort of shift and innovate and be progressive. The way that people think at Iris is very driven by what clients actually need, which is really interesting to hear you talk about that at the beginning.
Yeah.
But also how real people interact with brands, culture, media, etc., rather than what we think we need to put in the world, what we think good looks like, which genuinely is how a lot of the industry does kind of still operate. So I think Iris can be progressive because it doesn't put anything between, we don't put anything between ourselves and the way that people are behaving and what the market demand is. We can just sort of take it as it is in a way that isn't sort of judgmental or whatever, without an agenda, I suppose. And I guess that comes from the confidence of being able to innovate and know that you can set things up and start new things or whatever.
Yeah. It's very interesting to hear like you talk about the work and your role within it, and then you guys talk about it, and this sort of sense of underdog spirit. Obviously, I know it and I appreciate it, but I also know that the downside is, well, the upside is freedom. And one of the things I've noticed since you joined, and also since Menno joined, is about expectations have now shifted. So you stood up at one of the company meetings in the office, and you just said straight off the bat, I've got really high expectations. I'm really demanding. I'm ambitious. Like, oh, no one has said that before.
Really? Oh my God.
No, but you did it. You did
That was
it.
a tumbleweed moment.
No.
Hang on.
It wasn't like that at all. It was inspiring for people, because that's what people want from their careers, as well as the camaraderie and, you know, openness to risk and all of that. So it was just really interesting, because I just for myself, just listening to that, I thought, oh yeah, we in the old Iris sort of sense would never have been that overt about being ambitious for the work and for standards. So I thought it was very interesting, the sort of expectations that you bring in to Iris now.
I think that we were ambitious for the work, but I really like your thought about unencumbered and what that means, because one of the things about not being necessarily part of the industry sort of clique means that you're free to have to have a go at stuff and do things that maybe, because you can sort of get the same thing everywhere, really, when you really boil it down. I might be oversimplifying it, but being able to having a bunch of people that are really bothered about you and your brands and what you can do for that client and what they can do for you if you're the client. I think it's being able to take that and take perspectives that, you know, you're not going to find the answer in campaign. You're going to find it out in the world. And I think that's one of the things that Iris has always been good at, is being able to like root around, find those little sort of truths and explore the little like corners that maybe other people don't bother going into, and you can do, but you know, better stuff if you get that right.
I think that's right. I think that's a much more accurate way of describing it. And I think it's like I remember Ben Esson used to say this, like Iris is a sort of series of petri dishes, and it's like lots of little experiments. Some of them just become something amazing or you know, world class or innovative. So it's not that, and to do that you do need ambition, but it's sort of less. It's more of a sort of running mate, sort of go on then ambition, rather let's see where we can push this ambition, rather than a sort of capital A, you know, these are the standards, this is what we're all striving towards, ambition. So, but that's a much more accurate way of describing it.
But I think you're absolutely right. You do need to stand, you know, I think it's great to stand up and say, look, I've got really fucking high expectations, hopes for this thing, and let's go and have a, no one wants to be, hey, look, you know, let's see if we can do a, you know, bang average job and go home. Go home in time for whatever you want to watch on telly that night.
But especially with younger people, it makes them feel safe and secure, and it stops the existential debate that's going on in their head, which is, am I at the right place for me to build my career? Is this the best environment to learn? If they've got someone standing up in front of them saying, this is where I want to take it, they're like, yeah, I'm with her. So I think you immediately, rather than letting people discover that, you've immediately made them feel a lot more safe and secure by saying, stick with me and it'll be all right.
Well, that's good. I mean, I hope that's the case. It's funny though, like the underdog discussion. It's like saying, I don't think I relate to the underdog thing for Iris. Like, it's not something that I feel about Iris, and it's not something that I feel at Iris. But I think I've come in, and Menno as well. I think both of us have just gone, this is going to be amazing. And there's just no doubt. You know what I mean? We're going to have a great time here, and we will do amazing things. And Iris will continue to do amazing things. And I think both of us have just we just like things to be done. I was going to say in a certain way. It's not about doing things in a certain way. It's to a certain standard. And that is absolutely everything, absolutely every component of the work and the service and the business. It's just what I'm like. And I think it's probably what Menno's like as well. It's just a sort of, well, obviously you're going to do it really, really well. Or why would you turn up in the first place?
You are the right person for the job, definitely. That's
I
it.
sound
I agree.
terrifying, but
No.
that's how I feel. I think, like, do your best. And then we just need to be really, really clear around, I guess, what good looks like. But again, it's not about good being a certain way. It's about sort of really caring, being really passionate about it, wanting it to be really good, being willing to try new things, like do experiments, take risks to get to something that is really, really going to have impact in the world. And that can be across anything. So it's a sort of value set rather than an instruction book, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's funny. We're not an underdog. I don't think Iris is an underdog. No, Iris has always been admired, like it has. It's like, and slightly feared is the truth of it. So yeah, there's nothing underdog about that.
Yeah,
I
good.
think.
Just sort of thinking now, Adam, now in your new role. So is there sort of anything about your new role that is Iris alike, or is there anything that you sort of carried into it? Because you've been a Big Potato now for, what is it, 4 years, you were saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's coming up to 4 years, which has absolutely flown by. I mean, there's lots of similarities, I would say, between, there are, I think when I joined Big Potato, there were like 25 people. There's 55 of us now. We're growing really quickly. We'll have like doubled in the last 2 years. So we're the same thing. We're a bunch of people on a mission to do something like good and put something positive out in the world. We talk about, as a brand, we're there to lighten up moments people spend together. And social gaming is how we do that. And being able to, show that to the people that work there, so that everyone's bothered about, and that's one of our little sort of characteristics. We talk about being playful, open, bothered. Bothered is one of the core ones, which is just about we want to do brilliant stuff. We're bothered about the games that we make, the people that work there, our customers, the retailers, the people that spend their hard-earned money on games, but being able to engender that, I guess, in the business has been good to do, and it's great and it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some of your games in our house, so they'll be used a lot over Christmas.
We're coming up to peak game season. I think there are things that, like, if we're talking from a leadership perspective, that how I have, we've been exploring as a leadership team, but I think some of it is, it's just getting experts in, but empowering people, allowing them to do their job has been like a really, again, something that we did, I think, at Iris, and it's something that happens at Big Potato. So that's been like a good thing. And then, but also some structure around it. So we do use, you mentioned OKRs earlier. We've got our own, there are OKRs. We use them, and
have you got timesheets?
Only for creative.
You've got your utilisation report. I just want to double check a few things.
Yeah. Well, we can capitalise the development costs. Too much information. I'll stop.
Just want to finish up really with just a couple of words from you, Zoe, about the future and what you think the next kind of few years at Iris looks like. Now, obviously, you're now here. You're starting to now have a sense of a plan. Obviously, Menno is also going to be moving to the London office from the States next year. So do you have a sense of what you think Iris will look like over the next few years?
Yeah, I think I do. I think it's about sort of growing up, but in the right way. So it's about Iris being the right kind of grown up. You know what I mean? Having that kind of not being risk averse. Definitely being a business and a group of people that do the kind of ask for forgiveness rather than permission thing. We will embrace everything that's coming. So the different ways that people are using brands and using technology and using media, I have absolutely no concerns about that. I feel really, really confident that as a group of people, we're just kind of fascinated by human behavior. And so we will be able to continue to be sort of progressive and leading edge in that way. And I think it's that word mission. I think it will just feel as though we will be on a mission. There's something about kind of pace and determination. And I hope that will only intensify and that we will kind of accelerate. So yeah, but in some ways I don't really know, because who knows what media is going to do? Who knows what culture is going to do? The only thing we can really, the only thing is we know really is that we don't know. And so, yeah, I think it's that value set thing and that approach and that kind of determination and the curiosity and just the passion for it. And then, yeah, we'll sort of see what comes, I guess.
Thank you. And so thank you very much for joining me on this episode. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Claire. It's been brilliant to see you both. And thank you for tuning in to this particular episode of Entrepreneurs in the Wild. Iris is 25 years old. There's no getting away from it. And looking forward to see what the next few years looks like. And happy Christmas, everybody. And get this podcast from wherever you get your podcast from.